Well, I'm very lucky to say that I've managed to get hold of a pair of quad electrostatic loudspeakers, ESL 63s. So they're new to me. Obviously, they're not new. They came out in 1981, having been conceived, I think, in 1963. So it took a long. That knife is never going to do it. Having been conceived in 1963. Anyway, the long and the tall of it was, they took many years of gestation till quad founder Peter Walker and his fellow helper came up with the with this design in a way that could be sort of productionized. Before it was the electrostatic loudspeaker 57, which was the first production electrostatic loudspeaker. Before that, I think originally the idea came out of something like GEC or something like that in the 30s. There you are, Richardson, Sheffield, 100 odd layers of Damascus steel blade. That'll definitely get into that box. Anyway, yes, a very nice knife. Yes, apologies for this. Obviously, I've been obsessed with these Damascus steel blades. They're so beautiful, and it really does take a beautiful sharp edge when you tighten it down. Anyway, so I'm going to open this an unboxing video, probably a first for Max Machines, because most of my stuff is never in a box. I always tend to buy stuff second hand pretty much, but yeah, I'm thrilled to bits that I've actually got something in a box. So here we are. These were bought by a gentleman in Bristol, sadly no longer with us, but his wife wanted them to go to a good home, as did his son. And, I can assure you I've been lusting after a pair of these speakers for ever and a day, really. I wanted them when I was young. I had managed to get some of the quad 2 amps, the valve amps that went with the older electrostatics, but I could never get the pennies together to get the speakers to go with them. But the amps sounded absolutely sublime until, sadly, one of them pretty much caught fire when I went down the pub and came back and left the valves on, and the output transformer failed. And anyway, I'm not sure what happened, but smoke was pouring out of it and lots of bitumen. So, but quad stood for, I think it was, let me get it right, Quality Unit Amplifier Domestic, I think, which was one of the first sort of products they were working on. And they did make some great amps too. I haven't got a quad amp to drive these. I've actually got a name set up, one of these one box things, because they don't need huge power electrostatic loudspeakers. They're not going to blow your socks off. They're all about, that beautiful mid-range sort of detail and transparency, apparently. I've never even heard a pair, I don't think, but I've always wanted a pair because I've just heard such wonderful things about them. They are compromised in many ways. They don't do bass at all, pretty much. I think the bottom octave's gone with these speakers. But apparently, great quote, someone said to Peter Walker about the bass, he said, well, if you want, get a cardboard box and just kick it along with the music. He obviously didn't think much of disco music and things like that. These were very much favoured towards people who love classical music. And apparently they do that some of the best you can have. So there you are. That's it. That's the quad electrostatic loudspeaker 63. These were, I believe, one of the first 60 sold in the UK. And I'd heard at the time that people sort of remortgaged houses and stuff to buy these speakers. They were not cheap. They were quite an investment. And I'm so thrilled that, I've managed to get hold of a pair. Sadly, the person that had these and cherished them and had them serviced, by the way, a couple of times, I've got some quite eye-watering bills from Quad, is no longer with us. But, I will look after them. And, if I do move them on ever, I can't see me ever doing that. But if I do, then hopefully it'll also go to an enthusiast like myself. They use, I think it's Malar coats. It's like the electrostatic sandwich effectively is a piece of Malar that gets moved by the electric kept at high voltage, the plates, and that produces electrostatic field that then obviously oscillates to produce the music. Now, I'm not an expert in how that all works, but it's very clever, and apparently it avoids some of the problems with box speakers and their sort of moving coils, etc., with resonances and stuff. But it does provide some other challenges. They can sort of arc and things like that, and these have been rebuilt by Quad a couple of times. at great cost. So hopefully it'll work when I plug them in. Apparently you have to warm them up first. Look, this is the original booklet. So I thought I'd put it on here because it might be useful to someone who maybe has the speakers but doesn't have the booklet. So I'm just going to flick through a few pages, and it's nice to see. I've got two of these, but one of them's been marked up by, I guess, the original owner, who was mad on all sorts of music and had test records and things like that. And yeah, oh, look at this. Yeah, absolutely. So you put them in mono, and then you can check whether they're in phase or not. Okay. Wow, fantastic. Isn't it lovely? So anyway, I will just flick through this so those who are interested can see what was in the original pamphlet. We're going back to 1981 now. These would have been absolutely state-of-the-art. They still make electrostatics. They make a different version of it, and that's the fabled very flat output. And look, yeah, a letter there. I've spoken to Mr. Walker. Wow, I wonder if that was Peter himself. I hope so. Anyway, oh, isn't that lovely? And perhaps a note from... Yeah, that might have actually been penned by one of the Walkers. I understood there was a brother. The person that I bought them off, apparently they knew them quite well, and so did his wife. Quad are amazing because they still service their old kit. Look, there's an old price list. That's gone up a bit, I bet. So, fantastic speakers, and I can't wait to show you them running.